Oh, hey, Dead Island 2, you look nice today. That's
I hate you already, Travis.
some rockin' zombie gore you've got there. Look at how the brains splatter. Oh, wow, you're funny too. I love that.
We are going to be so famous when this goes live.
So what are your thoughts on how to make melee combat interesting in the long term, or like how to tell a good story? Oh. Okay. Oh, what are my plans on Saturday? Actually, I have to wash my hair. On one hand, Dambuster Studios has delivered a charming and hilarious apocalyptic sequel to the 2011 original that's littered with great one-liners and dismembered body parts in equal measure.
Mikasa is your casa.
But aside from its balls-to-the-wall silliness and considerable comedy chops, there just isn't much to it that hasn't been done better.
If I get copyright for this, I'm gonna be pissed.
Games since the original Dead Island.
And next time I see IGN at a gaming convention, I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind.
Which notably were made by Techland, the studio that created Dead Island.
Yeah, Tech.
Even though it lacks
Techland.
originality, Dead Island 2 still competently executes on its over-the-top LA-based zombie parody and injects some much-needed Botox into a series the top LA-based zombie that created Dead Island. Even though it lacks originality,
How does it lack originality? Hey Google, when was Dead Island 1 released?
Dead Island 1 was released on September 6, 2011.
2011? Yeah, September 2011. How many other like zombie-like gore kind of games like this were out that they... What? It's a sequel to one of the most original fucking zombie franchises that I remember.
Dead Island 2 still competently executes on its over-the-top LA-based zombie parody and injects some much-needed Botox into a series that LA-based zombie. Dead Island 2 still competently executes on its over-the-top LA-based zombie parody and injects some much-needed Botox into a series that's been languishing for far too long, making Hollywood's red carpets even redder by applying generous helpings of gore was laugh-out-loud funny and time generally well spent.
I just know I'm gonna be pissed.
This is a light-hearted first-person action game where committing unspeakable acts of violence against the zombie hordes of Hell A is the most mundane thing about it. After choosing one of 6 virus-resistant playable characters aboard a failed plane evacuation, you're thrown gore-first into the ridiculous streets of Southern California, where absolutely no one seems to be taking the
6 players to replay the game with all unique dialogue from start to finish.
apocalypse seriously.
So, all these explosions and fun, you're filming it?
Yep.
Alone or with up to 2 co-op pals, you'll drop-kick and disembowel your way through a cattle call of the undead over the course of this 30-hour adventure, during which you'll meet a bevy of larger-than-life quest givers that include this
I'm so
drug-addled
pissy,
rock
aren't I?
star
I'm opening up a Pokemon pack because I'm pissed.
and this geriatric former movie star who gets his fashion tips from Hugh Hefner. Like a cheesy B-movie, the story makes so little effort to produce anything approaching coherence that the attempt itself may in fact be sarcastic, and that fits in quite nicely with the absurdist tone of an adventure where some zombies have hives of aggressive bees stuck in their torsos. What few twists and turns exist in this familiar apocalyptic tale aren't terribly surprising or interesting, and that highlights one of the many ways Dead Island
like this
2
review.
feels like a game I've played several times before. And that highlights one of the many ways Dead Island 2 feels like a game I've played several times before. The good news is, although it
Bro, that's not our fault you play games for a living. Not everyone works for IGN. I've reviewed numerous games like this. I hate my life. I'm still living in a condominium in LA. Oh, the rent is going up. Anyway.
lacks storytelling substance, that meandering odyssey
Game's
at
gone!
least has some very funny writing and memorable characters throughout. And the fact that both are completely unhinged works to Dead Island 2's advantage. One chapter had me searching for a squeamish assistant on the set of a horror movie featuring a giant acid-spitting mechanical spider. while this side quest had me slaying zombies in creative ways for the benefit of a social media influencer looking to boost her clout. The numerous ways in which the developers expertly poke fun at the stereotypical vanity and vapidness of the Los Angeles setting is reminiscent of Grand Theft Auto V's Los Santos in the best kind of way. Great writing is helped along by high-quality voice performances as you recklessly charge your way through whatever preposterous hijinks before you, and that's hands down the best part of Dead Island 2.
Someone didn't want anybody or anything to get out.
If you've ever braved a virtual zombie apocalypse before, then you'll be quite familiar with the combat formula that this cheeky iteration sticks quite close to. You start with basic melee weapons like baseball bats and hammers before crafting more elaborate tools of destruction, like an electric katana or the demon love child of a sledgehammer and a flamethrower, and eventually guns too. But while the more eccentric melee options have interesting designs, in practice they don't feel much different than their unmodded peers, aside from applying various status effects, so they aren't as exciting as they look. The melee creations at your disposal
I will agree with that. I wish you could do more customizing to the weapons. There's times where you're applying some of the mods and you're hoping, like, maybe the mod, before you apply it, you'll see what it looks like. I felt like in the first Dead Island, some of the things started looking crazy and it was really fun and exciting. So I will agree with that part for the customizing of the weapon.
Are also far less original and crazy than the kinds of bonkers weapons we get to play with in the Dead Rising series. You definitely won't be seeing any umbrella lasers or sledgehammers with grenades duct taped to them, for example. Because of that, the novelty with Dead Island 2's by-the-numbers close quarters combat wears thin quite quickly. Despite how they look and how they sound on paper, there's simply a lack of variety in the way the available tools of destruction work. And the fact that fighting against this zombie horde is about as challenging as whacking a T-ball off a stand. You can only slice a brain eater in half so many times before the monotony sets in, and you start to feel as jaded as Woody Harrelson in Zombieland. And there aren't enough late-game changes to inject any kind of variety into the mix. Multiplayer is the best remedy for staving off repetition, since it's a laughing
How the fuck did I enjoy it from start to finish? And Buzz Killington here had an issue with swinging. Then change the fucking weapon.
riot when friends are there to help you drop-kick enemies off of rooftops.
You're just using the same
One
weapon
thing that took
types.
some tension out of it, though, is that alone or as a team, failure becomes an increasingly rare occurrence. You unlock ample tools
Be
to keep
creative.
yourself standing atop the pile of undead corpses instead of being swallowed beneath it. But the threats
Use
don't
the
keep
skill
pace,
thing.
and there aren't any difficulty options to up the challenge. For example, it's crazy that a perfectly timed dodge or parry, both of which have a very generous window, makes you invulnerable as you execute the offending zombie, restoring a good chunk of health in the process, if you've got the right skill equipped. As a result, I never felt like I was in any kind of danger. There's nothing
You're not supposed to! It's unhinged fucking anarchy! Just kill! Kill! Take out your frustration on your sexless marriage and just go slay some zombies to get out all that anger and frustration because of your personal life. All right? You wanted a promotion at work and you couldn't get it. Go home and just maim them all.
actively awful about getting up close and personal against the undead, but I
It's
definitely
Dead
felt
Island!
blasé about my title as the Los Angeles area's newly appointed king of extreme plastic surgery after only a couple hours. Matters are made worse with the introduction of ranged weapons, which feel sloppy, inaccurate, and don't benefit from most of the melee-focused
IGN gave Hogwarts Legacy a negative review. Who's the owner of IGN? Nancy Pelosi?
skills and upgrades. Guns almost feel like an afterthought that was
Fucking-
tacked onto the sandbox at the
fucking
last
libtards.
minute, but never tuned to feel good. Not only are firearms rarely the most effective method for mowing down zombies, but ammo is extremely limited, and firing them never satisfies. Beyond that, the steady
SMG
stream
sucks.
of zombies coming at you from all directions
SMG did
means
suck.
you rarely
Not
find
enough
yourself
ammo.
in a situation where you're able to fire
for
on
his
the enemy
knee, you
before getting
fucking
interrupted by a
skill-issued
quick time
noob!
event to shove a
Go for
pushy
his
zombie away,
knees!
which forces you back into melee.
Use your Molotovs! Also, stop playing on a
Owing to my
PlayStation!
time parkouring around Villador and Dying Light 2 just last year, movement during combat in Dead Island 2 feels downright sluggish by comparison.
Because it's not about parkour!
One of the things that keeps combat
You
fresh
did not
is
play
a steady
Dead Island
stream of
1!
passive perks and active abilities that unlock as you progress through side quests and
Who gave this frog spawn the fucking... Who gave him Dead Island to review? Who did it? IGN gave it 9 out of 10. Take it back, whoever said that. I reiterate, I take back everything I said, okay, about Nancy Pelosi. I'm sorry, Nancy, alright? Okay? I feel like this guy did not play Dead Island 1, like me.
freeze. By the end,
I'm angry.
a wide variety of options are available to customize your character to fit the playstyle you favor, which in my case was optimizing my attack speed to be ultra fast and making counterattacks following perfect parries as devastating as possible. There's even character-specific options that play to their particular strengths. If you want to get extra weird, you also gain access to superhuman powers like a powerful AoE ground pound or the ability to enter a frenzied rage and tear zombies apart with your bare hands.
But it felt very monotonous after a while. It was not very fun where I kept swinging my pickaxe. Oh, also, you're able to turn into a bloodthirsty zombie and absolutely slay the fuck out of everybody. Imagine they're your boss at IGN that I've been begging for a fucking promotion for the past 6 years.
Though these powers have cooldowns and mostly serve as a way to break up the otherwise conventional
Yes, and you can also use the skill things to make those power-ups last longer, and you get perks and boosts that make it a different experience every time.
hacking and slashing, it does go a long way to making repetitive combat encounters more interesting. In addition to the bugs that creep out of torso-mounted beehives, Dead Island 2 is also host to a variety of less amusing technical bugs. It was nothing game-breaking, but I saw people sink into the ground during cutscenes.
You're on the PlayStation!
Scenes, captions that lied about who was speaking, and plenty of other unintentional silliness. Multiplayer makes a somewhat buggy game
Sounds like a
even
bad
more
port.
unpredictable by introducing lag, disappearing characters, and a whole host of other issues. Usually these things just make the already rowdy streets of Hollywood even more ridiculous, and hardly get in the way of having a good time, but it does give Dead Island 2 a somewhat unpolished feel.
I didn't see any of that. any of that. Okay? You got a reviewer build that Nogla got, Evan got. Could have been in that build. We didn't see a fucking any issue.
Dead Island 2 is a hysterical Los Angeles-infused satire that does most things well enough, but feels like a stroll down the walk of fame of celebrated zombie games I've already played, without adding many new ideas of its own. In fact, aside from the stellar comedy bits, I can think of very few things that Dead Island 2 does better than last year's Dying Light 2. Still, if you've ever wanted to put your Wolverine claws straight through a zombie's face or knock someone's head off with a golf club, Dead Island 2's got you. Its blood-soaked melee combat and memorable characters are a lot of fun, especially when accompanied by friends in co-op multiplayer. The somewhat generic crafting weapons and upgrading your skills as you lay waste to armies of spray-tanned undead is entertaining enough on its own, but the strong writing and completely irreverent tone are the true stars of the show.
I'm sticking with 8.5. Great side missions. Campaign was short, but very enjoyable. Voice acting has been great. It feels like Dead Island 1, which is important, because if you love Dead Island 1, you're going to get Dead Island 2. I don't want the game to try and be like other games. I want the game to be fucking Dead Island. I just don't get that. I just don't understand that. Like, stop trying to, like, compete with other games. Well, they also did this. That's the problem with Call of Duty. Call of Duty went down the wrong way because it started trying to implement things from other games as well to try and keep up. How about you just make a really good game of Call of Duty, like Black Ops 1 and 2? You know what I mean? That's it, because, like, perfect example was Black Ops 3, the wall running and the jetpacks, because of, what was that fucking Bungie game? The one with the shit. And you get in the big, the mecha suits, and that came out around the time. I can't remember it, actually. Titanfall, thank you. Titanfall came out, and then Call of Duty were threatened, and then they made the wall running and the things like that. And then what happened to that game? That Call of Duty was really bad. I'm glad they kept it like Dead Island 1. Don't act like Black Ops 3 was. Black Ops 3 was not a top 3 COD ever. No. I like Black Ops 1 and 2. I'd have Black Ops 2 as the best. Black Ops 1. I just like the old games.
You? I don't believe a